everyone, and welcome back to another video. I know I've been away for a little while. I just got super busy with my job and I started dating again, so that kind of took a lot of my time, but I am here again to start filming more often for you guys, and the first one back will be my favorite books of 2019. I have 10 of my favorite books from 2019 to talk about with you all today. 2019 was actually a really good reading year for me. I read 51 books out of the 50 that I wanted to read, so I beat my goal. I also happened to read a lot of good books. I read a lot of 4 and 5-star books, and that is incredible, but it also made it really difficult to choose my favorites, because some of my favorites might actually be books that I rated 4 stars compared to 5 stars. It just depends on how I was feeling and the way that it was written and other elements that go into reviewing a book. So, I mean, some of these that are on my favorite list might not even be rated the highest on my list. It's just, you know, all depends. I also only read a few books that I really didn't like, so I will be talking about those in another video that I will also be filming today about the worst books that I read in 2019, because we all love controversial subjects. So let's get into my favorite books. So the first book I want to talk about is She Would Be King by Wei Moore. This is a debut novel, and it was actually the second book I read in 2019. So that was way back in January, guys. That was literally a year ago. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It is absolutely a beautiful book. It is one that blends history with magical realism to tell the story of Liberia's creation through the perspective of 3 characters who all have kind of magical abilities, but don't get caught up in that magic side of it, because it's so much more than that. It is just beautiful, filled with history and pain, and just, it's amazing. I loved it so much, and I still think about it a lot. The characters are absolutely unforgettable, as well as the narrator. The narrator is a very unforgettable person. Or thing. So I highly recommend this book. Absolutely incredible. I will also like to mention this is in no particular order except for the last book that I'll talk about, and that one most definitely is my favorite book of the year. So everything else is just my favorite books. It's in no order whatsoever. So on to the next book I'd like to talk about, which is Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is a young adult contemporary novel that I read kind of recently, just like a couple of months ago, and I loved it so much. Frankly in Love follows a young man named Frank who is a Korean American. Frank is just trying to become his own person. He wants to date who he wants to date instead of kind of following who his parents want him to date. His parents are very strict in that aspect. They want him to do everything their way, kind of like they want him to follow their culture, their Korean culture. And so he's trying to figure out if he's Korean, if he's American, if he's Korean American, if he's American Korean. Like, there's just so many elements within this novel. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me just fall in love with all of these characters, and I just loved it so much. It actually helped me a lot with a healing process of my own, because I was able to relate to one of the characters in this. I feel like this book is something that everybody can relate to, whether you are LGBTQ+, Korean, Black, white, anything whatsoever. I think there is something for everybody in this novel, and I really appreciated that. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars when I read it, and just love it so much. The next one I will be talking about is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I read this when it was in ARC form before it came out, and I did an entire vlog about it, so if you want to hear more of my thoughts, I will leave my vlog linked in the info card up above so you can check that out. But yes, I love this book. I know a lot of people don't. I know it's just like, either you love or you hate it, but I loved it, and I just cannot wait to see where it goes. I can't wait to see how our main character progresses and how she heals and everything that goes down. I just thought it was a lot of fun and gory and dark and gritty and amazing all at the same time. There are plenty of trigger warnings in this, so if you still don't know what this is about, I would be on the lookout for the trigger warnings. I mentioned the trigger warnings in my own vlog, so you can go watch that if you'd like. But yes, one of my favorites. Next, I will be talking about Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. This is one of my favorite fantasy books of all time now. I have talked about it in plenty of vlogs and videos already. It's just that that amazing. My favorite thing about this book is the fact that it is very unique in its writing style. You basically get 3 storylines in this book. You get the main character telling his story, you get a demon kind of telling his story as well, and then you get footnotes at the bottom of pages that are kind of the story of whoever's listening to these tales being told. He has his own commentary going on. So it's very, very interesting. And I just loved all the characters. The magic system's great. There's a dragon who feeds off songs, which is like insane but amazing all at the same time. And I can't get enough of this. I have an arc of the second book, which already came out. Unfortunately, I was not able to get to it in time, but I do have that and I will be reading it very soon. It is one that I'm very much anticipating in this next year. But yeah, this one was a lot of fun and it's so good. Next, I'll be talking about Promise of Blood by Brian McKellen. This is another high fantasy novel. However, this one is also slightly different, and this one is also very surprising that I liked it as much as I did, seeing as the main magic system is gunpowder magic. The fact that the main character and some of the other characters are able to change gunpowder and make it explode, and it's like very more technical than other magic systems, and I really appreciated that. But I kind of thought this would be a lot of political and, you know, war intrigue and battle intrigue, if that's a thing. But yeah, I thought that's what this was going to be a lot of, and I didn't realize that I liked it as much as I did, because I usually don't go for those kinds of novels, but I really, really enjoyed it in this one. This one is one that you got to think about, what if a fantasy setting was taking place during an industrial revolution in a world, and that's what this novel is. So it's very interesting and it's a lot of fun, and I love all the other magic systems. It's not just gunpowder magic in here. There's elemental, there's kind of darker magic in here as well. It has demons, and just a lot of good stuff that you love in fantasy is in this book. So it's one that I really, really enjoyed. It took me a little while to get through, but I was loving every second of it. The next one I will be talking about is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maharan. This one is a very controversial one. I know, and I acknowledge the concerns that people have in this in regards to, I believe there's fat phobia in here, and racism, and just the way that people are described is not great in here. I acknowledge that. However, I still loved this book. I loved the 2 main characters and how they interacted, and I really just liked them a lot, and I'm not sorry for that. It's just, I acknowledge what other people are saying. I, however, really, really enjoyed this one, and I flew through it. I love that there's witches in this, and I love that there's a witch hunter, and I love that a witch fell in love with a witch hunter, and vice versa. I really enjoyed it. I kind of live for that kind of romance, so I could not get enough of this. I was able to, I just hit myself in the face. I was able to read an art copy of this book, and I will be getting a finished copy very soon for myself because I loved it so much, and I really want to continue on with the series when the next one comes out. Next, I'll be talking about Blood Witch by Susan Dennard. This is the 3rd book in the Truth Wish, what is the series called? I forget, but the first one being Truth Witch. This is the 3rd book in that series, and I love this one because it's from Adrian's perspective, and it's his story, and, you know, it's just everything you want. I can't go into too much detail about this one because it is the 3rd book in a series, so I don't want to be spoiling the other 2 books for you. All I can say is there is a lot of elemental magic in here. It kind of reminds me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender, so that's another reason why I really enjoy this trilogy. I believe the first one and the second one each made it onto my favorite books of the year that I read it in. Maybe I didn't make a video of it because I wasn't making videos a lot that time, but they were definitely one of my favorites of each year that I read them in. So I'm glad that this is continuing on with that tradition, and I just love it so much. The 3rd to last book I will be talking about today is 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is by Stuart Turton. This is a adult mystery novel that has been getting a lot of hype in the booktube and book blogging world. It also is another one of those controversial ones because of a character who is overweight and how he is described in this and how it's kind of fat phobic. So I address that, I acknowledge it, but I still enjoyed this book. It is a very unique mystery, the way that it's told, the fact that the main character has, you know, these 7 chances to figure out who killed Evelyn Hardcastle and figure out the mystery. And the way that he does that is he goes into different bodies of the people who are at the party of the night that she is killed. And so he is able to live a day in a different person's body. So he's able to see different points of view to try to put everything together and figure out the mystery. There's a little bit more to this. There's a little bit of a fantasy element to it. And it's just all very, very interesting. And I can see where the author can potentially make sequels to this because the world that this is setting and the way that the main character is able to go into other people's bodies, that is explained in this, and I feel like that has a lot of potential to have more and more books within that line of writing. I can see where it would be a lot of work. It was a lot of work to read it, but it was very, very worth the read, and I am excited to see where this author goes next. The second to last one that I will be talking about will make a coworker of mine very happy because it is Fate of the Fallen by Kel Cade. My coworker and I both read this and loved it before it came out, and we're just trying to hype it up because it is very, very good. Fate of the Fallen is a book that takes the chosen one trope and flips it on its head. The simplified version of it is, what if the chosen one dies? Who's going to continue on the quest? What happens to the quest? Because the chosen one can't finish it. Can't save the world. What's going to happen? Is the world going to end? So that's basically it. The main character, his best friend is the chosen one. Spoiler alert, but not really because it happens in the first chapter. The chosen one dies. And so basically his best friend dies. And he has to figure out what's going to happen. Is he going to save the world? There's just so much into this. There's a lot of magic in it and just a lot of interesting points of view and perspectives, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the series goes. I'm just so excited. It's a lot of fun. Now, the last book I will be talking about is most definitely my favorite book of the year. The other ones had no particular order, but this one is the top. It is by far my favorite, and it is the most surprising one for me because it is a nonfiction book. Guys, I don't read nonfiction. I want to read more, but I don't read a lot of it right now. And to have a nonfiction book be my favorite book of the year, that's saying a lot. So that book is In the Dreamhouse by Carmen Maria Machado. Now, I have also read Her Body and Other Parties by Carmen Maria Machado, and that is a short story collection that I enjoyed, but not like as much as I wanted to. I think I gave it like 3 stars. That was last year that I read it or something like that. But I enjoyed some of the stories more than I did others, and that's just how it goes with short stories for me. But I was very, very interested in reading her memoir, which is In the Dreamhouse. But this book, guys, is just mind-blowing. Carmen Maria Machado's writing is just top tier. It made me speechless at times. I was just in awe of it. And the fact that this is a memoir and the way that is written, that it's reading like a fiction novel, it kind of scares you a little bit because you're thinking, oh, this is like a good story. And then you're like, well, crap, this has happened to her. This is scary. This is just, In the Dreamhouse is Carmen Maria Machado's memoir about domestic abuse as a lesbian woman. It is a story that hasn't been told before, specifically lesbians. That is something that Carmen really wanted to do, and she addresses that in her memoir. And it's just a dark, dark memoir full of very truthful tales, an incredible story to read. And I still think about it, and I will be getting a finished copy of it of my own because it is just so, so, so good. I highly recommend you all pick it up. Obviously, there's trigger warnings in it for domestic abuse, and among other things. It's not for everybody, but if you are able to read it, I would highly recommend it because it puts a lot of things into the light. Alright, so there you have it, everyone. Those 10 books were my favorite books of 2019. Please comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you've thought about them. I would love to know. Also, if you've done a video or blog post about your favorite books of 2019, share them, because I would really like to see what everybody else has read and enjoyed this past year. So please like this video and subscribe if you aren't already, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!